In this video, I'll explain a Chinese romance film called Love 020. The film begins with a college student playing an online RPG game in her dorm room. The sudden power outage caused her to lose connection and be disconnected from the game, not wanting to lose the moment. The girl went to a nearby internet cafe to resume the game. She rode her bicycle so fast that the girl almost hit another bicycle when she arrived at the destined cafe. Putri is a computer student who is highly skilled in technology and RPG games. The game being played at that time was a fantasy game in which each player could battle, interact, and even have a marriage relationship. That night, a young man asked the people at the internet cafe for help in combating an enemy that was claimed to be from another campus. The internet cafe was indeed crowded with students from Putri's campus. Their sense of solidarity erupted at that time, and everybody began to help the young man, even Putri herself. Surprisingly, the world's best player stepped into the battle and helped. Everyone in the cafe burst into excitement since they had not expected to be able to play with the legend. Putri was placed 7th, despite the fact that the distance between her and the legend was fairly close, but they didn't know each other. Still in the game, Putri met a player who was her husband at that time. For some reason, the player requested that their married status be ended. Putri was not upset since she felt it was all a game. In real life, Putri lies in a dormitory with her fellow majors. Once upon a time, Putri had received false news in which she was accused of being a mistress. A photo of Putri talking to a rich man on the side of the road appears in a college article. This caused other students to misinterpret her. Angry at the author of the article, Putri came to see him in his journalism class on campus. Putri claimed that the photo in the story was actually of her, but the person she chatted with was a single mother with one child. After being hired to teach her son English and math, the mother drove Putri back to the hostel. Putri left the journalist there after embarrassing him in front of everyone. On campus, Putri and her friends accidentally saw a popular student passing by in front of them. He is Kevin, a senior student who also comes from the computer department and is very skilled in playing games. Putri and her friends witnessed Kevin's popularity when he rejected a girl from language department who was actually beautiful. On that day, Putri re-entered the game, and she saw her ex-husband marry another player who was reputed to be the most beautiful player in real life. Putri accidentally ruined the wedding when her avatar was moved automatically while she was busy catching the cockroach in her dorm. When she went back to the game, Putri attracts the attention of other players by selling rare items to them, and that made her ex's new wife irritated. Soon after, the #1 player approached Putri and asked to be friends. Putri was shocked and delighted to be friends with the world's best player. Even more astonishing, the #1 player proposed marriage to her in a lavish and magnificent wedding ceremony. Putri had no reason to refuse, as a fighting contest between husband and wife was about to be held soon. It turns out that so far the #1 player in the game has been Kevin, but Putri has not realized it. On campus, Putri told her classmates about the meeting. They were all curious to see what the #1 player would look like in real life. Putri, on the other hand, didn't think much of it because she thought it was just a game. Long story short, Putri and Kevin got married in the game. Kevin introduced Putri to his friends. They believed Putri was a man in real life because she didn't put a profile picture. Kevin didn't say anything since he believed it was best for them to strengthen their marriage relationship. The ceremony was so extravagant and majestic that it became a hot topic among the other players. Knowing this, her ex-husband and his wife were upset because they felt humiliated. Back from campus, Putri met with the previous journalist students again. He is Irwin, who starts to fall in love with Putri after being bumped into her the other day. Putri rejected, but because Irwin insisted, Putri eventually made an excuse, saying that she was already dating Kevin, a popular student in her major. He was astonished and ashamed to find that Kevin was actually nearby. Kevin just smiled when Putri started to feel awkward and left them. At night, Peter entered the game to join the clan war. She is still a member of her ex-husband's clan. His new wife, who is still irritated by Putri, devises a plan to kick her out of the clan. In the end, Putri's ex-husband, who was the leader of the clan, got mad and threatened her to leave. Feeling slandered, Putri left the clan without any explanation. Kevin said that he had found an investor to fund the game they were planned to create. The last thing they need to do is prepare a great presentation to get the investors' attention. That night before heading home, Kevin found that his wife in the game had been labeled a traitor to her own clan. Kevin knew his wife had been tricked and he did not accept it. He enters the game to challenge Putri's ex-husband. The following day, the battle became the big story among the other players. because Putri's husband and ex-husband fought each other. What makes it even more interesting is that the real figure of Putri's ex-husband is Erwin, a journalist student who confessed his feelings to Putri the other day. She entered the game using the computer in the library, so do Erwin. Putri, who happened to be in the library, also got news of the battle, and she finally entered the game. Putri was using the computer right in front of Kevin's row, where Kevin was watching her from behind. Kevin seems to know that Putri is the real figure of his wife in the game. Not sure how he knew, but he must have known for a long time. After defeating Erwin in the game, Kevin invites Putri to go to a place that can only be accessed by certain people. Once again, this situation made Putri feel for it, though before she thought all of these things were just a game. Meanwhile, Kevin smiled as he watched Putri from behind. Long story short, Putri and Kevin are getting closer even though it's only in the game. They both competed in the husband and wife game and defeated the other couple until the final round. Before the last match started, Kevin told Putri that he would do a presentation in a real life and promised to meet her in the evening. Kevin and his friends did a presentation at an investment company that afternoon. The results are quite good and investors are pleased. However, they must still negotiate the price before giving the contract. Night came, Putri went to the internet cafe after college. She was waiting for Kevin in the game before the final round was held. But Kevin did not come until they were both disqualified from the match. Putri feels sad, not because she lost the game, but because she is worried that Kevin may leave the game forever. When she back to the dorm, her friends told her that someone from the game was looking for her. Putri enters the game, and it turns out that the person who is looking for her is Kevin's friend. They explain that Kevin was unable to join in the game because of an accident. Before he even explained what happened, the electricity in the hostel suddenly went out. Putri dashed to the internet cafe to find out what happened next. Also Kevin, who turns out to live in the same dormitory. The two of them finally met again in the game. Putri was relieved that Kevin was fine. Kevin explains what really happened and apologizes for leaving the game. Putri doesn't care because the most important thing for her is Kevin's safety. In the end, Kevin invites Putri to meet in person. Putri tried to put on her best look before they met. Putri and her friends are clueless that the person she will meet is Kevin, a popular student on her campus. Putri and Kevin had promised to meet after the tests were finished. Kevin was waiting from a distance when she arrived at the meeting place, but Putri was aware and noticed. Kevin smiled before he finally approached and explained the situation. Putri was surprised because she never thought that her husband's real figure in the game was Kevin. On that day, Putri was invited to go to a basketball game with Kevin for the last time before their campus was closed. Putri hesitated when Kevin offered her a bike ride because she was worried that others would misinterpret their relationship. Kevin didn't mind. In fact, he responded to her worries by saying, "Since when we have not been in a relationship." Putri accepted it. She looked happy before she finally felt uncomfortable because the clothes she was wearing were too short. Kevin, who realized this, bought a pack of food for Putri so she could carry it and cover her skirt. Putri arrived at the location to find her friends, who were ready to provide support to the computer majoring basketball team. There was also Dinda, a language major who was rejected by Kevin but hasn't given up. Putri blushed as Kevin continued to stare at her from afar. She tried but failed to cover her face. Minutes passed and his friends managed to gain the upper hand in the game. In between matches, he walked towards the tribune, where Dinda was finally disappointed because her idol chose Putri over herself. Putri's friends could only remain silent after witnessing this unusual situation. After going back to the dormitory, Putri was punished by her friends because they thought that Putri had been in a relationship with Kevin for a long time and covered it up. They also can't believe that Putri only met Kevin that day, because based on what they saw, Putri was like an old couple. The next day, Putri and Kevin returned home from campus together. Putri asked if Kevin had ever been curious about her true form in the real world. At that time, it was all revealed that Kevin was a cyclist who was almost hit by Putri when she was in a hurry to go to the internet cafe. Kevin was curious and wanted to know more about Putri. Kevin entered the internet cafe that night and found Putri playing her game while helping someone in a fight. That's what makes Kevin come into the game and help him. In addition, the reason he proposed to Putri was not just to participate in the tournament, but also as a sort of declaration of love to her. Kevin takes Putri to the building where he and his friends are designing games. Putri liked the place because there were some things that caught her attention. Kevin stated that he enjoys games and has done so since he was a child. Therefore, Kevin also dreams of creating games that can accompany children someday. Putri was silent for a moment because she felt that everything was not real. Putri wondered how she had gotten to know Kevin so quickly, while only meeting him yesterday. Kevin himself couldn't explain it because that was the truth. Not long after that, Putri was finally able to meet Kevin's friends. They were surprised the video thought that Putri was the real figure of Kevin's wife in the game. Long story short, the Putri's old clan in the game is holding a meeting for the first time. Putri was invited by a member who knew her well. Even though Putri is no longer a member of the clan, her contributions and services to it are outstanding and powerful. So she was also invited to the meeting at a cafe. The clan members gathered and introduced themselves to each other. When Putri arrived, Erwin had no idea that the figure of his ex-wife in the game would become his own idol. The real figure of Erwin's wife was also there, and she seemed irritated with Putri's presence that night. It was raining as they were going home from the meeting. Kevin romantically picks Putri up with an umbrella, and it made everyone surprised when they saw it. When the rain stopped, he told that it was his first time being with a girl. He often felt lost for words, but at least he could do what men usually do for his girl. Putri smiled, hearing that before they both walked home. As the days passed, the campus began to close and the new year would soon come. Putri was obliged to return to her hometown because of a promise she made her parents. Kevin is unable to return home because his friends are waiting for the answer of an investor to fund the production of their game. Kevin and his friends went to a meeting with investors the next day. Surprisingly, the company plagiarized all the game designs they had made and acknowledged it unilaterally. Kevin was outraged that the investor and the company had fooled them. Kevin cancels the deal and leaves upset. At that moment, Kevin decided to stay on campus while his friends returned to his hometown. Kevin and Putri meet in the game on New Year's Eve and express their feelings for each other. Kevin's friends informed Putri of all that had happened. Feeling unable to leave Kevin alone, Putri and her friends decided to return to campus that very night. Putri and her friends arrived on campus the following day. Kevin's disappointment over what had happened was soothed by their presence. Kevin also begins to realize that Putri has always been his true love. On that day, they held a party in the game to fight one of the bosses. Since then, the five of them have grown closer. Putri said that she loved the game since it took her to a new world. She can accomplish anything there and meet interesting people like them. Kevin feels excited again as he decided to create a new game with a more interesting world concept than before. They are also helped by an internet cafe guard who is a programming specialist. Making games is difficult and time-consuming. The games they built, of which only early versions were available, attracted people's interest in the concept and experience that the game offered. This is enough to catch the interest of investors, who will support the game until it is done. 4 years passed after going through various obstacles and trials, and the game they were working on was finally finished and ready to be released. Putri's friends were present at the release event, and they seemed to get along well with Kevin's friends. The film ends when Kevin and Putri go to the rooftop to reminisce about the past and plan their wedding. The end.